Dibble fans rejoice, it is time for even more Dibble, and today it is more than just waddling around. This one's actually pretty eventful. So there's the first one that you get the injured stuff, the next one is the swimming animation, which honestly, I think those are starting to become my favorite to watch because there's just so much going on. And then finally there's the head injury. Well, no, there's Grazing and then there's the head injury one. Those two both didn't take too much time in comparison to, like, you know, the swimming and whatnot. So I kind of forgot that existed. Anyway, first up is the injury. Pretty self-explanatory. This stream I actually caught decently early on, so I was able to catch the start-ish of the animation thing and then work from there. So it starts out looking like basically a normal run, almost, and then he adjusts it slowly over time and it looks, you know, well, hurt. Hunches the back, lowers the head, you know, all that fun injured stuff. I think its tail curls in a little bit by the end as well, which I found pretty interesting. Because, I mean, with most of them, they have longer-ish necks, and so they'll, like, hunch their neck in closer and whatnot. This guy looks like he curls his tail, and it's kind of cute. I mean, sad, of course, but, you know, it's kind of cute. Overall, the injured one, I mean, it's injured one. It looks like a mild injury. Like, you can tell he's hurt, but it doesn't look like he's in absolute agony compared to some of them where they're just, like, dramatically limping and their mouth is hanging open and all that. I think this one was supposed to be, you know, a mild one, nothing too bad. Overall, nice one, nothing much to say on it. It looks injured, but not, like, super duper injured, so, you know, it does its job. Like, a part of me would almost say, oh, because it's a prey animal, it's trying to hide it more than the predatory ones would, but overall, I don't know if they'd do something like that, because I don't know, all animals try to hide pain in some form or another, because if you show it, then something's gonna pick you off. So, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't look super dramatic like the other ones do. But that could be, it could just be, again, a mild injury versus super injured, like one's, oh, it's a little hurt, versus one's incredibly low HP. Or maybe Dibble's just better at hiding it than most things are. Because when you think about most of the others, they like, dramatically limp and stuff, and Dibble looks like it might have a slight limp here. Like I mentioned yesterday, there was something about the walking animation that looked a little bit strange, and I think a part of it was it looked like it could have been slightly limping. I haven't gone back to look, I just remember something looked off and I couldn't describe what. And it could have been, you know, one side looks like it might be limping, I don't know. But whatever the case, it does what it needs to do, I suppose. It's an injured animation. The tail curl, I thought it was part of the animation, as in, you know, it's curling its tail in because it's in pain. I don't know if that's the case or if it's turn, but if it is part of the animation itself, I kind of like it because it adds more to it, because most of the rest of Dibble isn't really reacting too much. Which, again, not wrong, most animals are going to do that. However, in this case, compared to the other ones, I'm saying it's just milder. But anyway, let's move on to the swimming one. The swimming one, as I said before, it looks quite a bit more interesting than, well, most of them, honestly. Even the attacks and stuff can sometimes be a little bit, I don't want to say generic, but just not quite as flashy, I suppose. Whereas the swimming one, you usually see a lot of moving the parts around, like the arms, the shoulders, all that fun stuff. It's just a lot more movement in comparison to most of the other animations, which makes sense, but yeah, it makes it more entertaining to watch. So a decent part of this one gets played in, well, full-ish, I suppose, and then it starts chopping off later because it becomes samey or slight tweaks, etc., etc. You guys know the drill by now. However, because the beginning is so drastic in how much is being done, like, it's basically from the ground up. You'll see with a lot of the other animations, he starts with a core one, like the walk or something, and then he'll build off of the walk, alter it as needed, etc. This one is completely different, completely new. A lot more is done with it visually, so you get to see bit by bit. Like in this case, one arm starts to move, then he starts to move one of the back legs. Well, I guess I should say front leg, back leg, but whatever. Anyway, he starts to move one leg, then the other one, and then he'll start adding more and more of the body into movement. And it's a lot more interesting to watch for us, you could say, because it's a lot less of the upper little scribble menu, and it's a lot more adjusting parts of the Dibble, and you get to see like vast changes in how it moves over time. So like with the Graze one later on, which, I mean, I'll cover there, I guess, but it starts with the walk, and then he tilts the head down, and that's basically it. From then on, it becomes very mild tweaks, like opening and closing the mouth, making the head tilt a little bit more, or move a bit, depending on which way he's grazing, so on and so forth. But this one, it's a completely different set, because it's not based on a walk, it's not based on the run, it's not based on any of that, it's from the ground up. So that's probably why it's more interesting, and also why it takes so much longer. But I mean, that's kind of expected when you're working on something from, again, I've said it probably 5 times by now, the ground up. I cannot stress it's not based on another animation, so he's making it completely from scratch, and honestly, it's just much more fascinating to see, so there's a lot more included here, because honestly, when it comes to an animation stream, that's most of what you're going to look for, something just created seemingly out of thin air. I mean, of course, it's not, you see every step of the way, mostly, but, yeah, it's interesting to see compared to, you know, just slight tweaks to an existing animation, because, I mean, then most of the basis is already there, and you just gotta do some tweaks, and there it is. But with this one, it's completely fresh and new and shiny and all that fun stuff. What do I think of it? It's a swimming animation. Frankly, like with Serato, it was a swimming alt attack sort of thing. This one's a flat out just swimming animation, and it still looks flowy. You can still see, you can tell it's in the water. Like it's doing a cute little doggy paddle and all that. It's fun stuff like that. The way it moves, it looks very nice. I like how the tail slowly sways behind it, the way the legs move, all that fun stuff. It looks how I would expect this animal to move, so honestly there's no complaints or anything of that nature. At least not for me. I'm sure there will be some elsewhere, but, you know. As far as everything else goes, I would say most of my comments go to the fact that it's just very entertaining to watch compared to the others. Like, it's just a simple swimming animation, and frankly, I hate seeing them in-game because you have to slowly move across a body of water, because most of the dinos will swim like half as fast as they walk, and it's a slog. I mean, it makes sense, of course. I'm not complaining gameplay-wise, it makes sense. It's more, from my perspective, I don't like it because it's gonna take me forever to get across this river. So of course, seeing it's like, that, and to be fair, again, most of it's gonna be hidden by the water. So a part of it you're not going to really be able to see. So it is nice to be able to see it out in the open air, and you can see every little detail of how it moves and all that. It's neat. I like it. It works as intended, TM, and it was entertaining to watch. I like that one. Somehow, magically, the end of the prior one actually lined up decently well with this one, so we get to move on right on time, unlike the prior one where it went halfway through part of the swimming, but honestly, the swimming one was so long it kind of needed it. Anyhow, this one is grazing while moving. I kind of touched on it before. There's not a whole lot compared to, you know, swimming, where this one, he just kind of lowers the head, he'll move it around a bit, he'll start moving the mouth, all that fun stuff. There are slight tweaks, of course, but generally speaking, it's going to be basically the walking animation slightly altered. Not a whole lot. What I think of it, it works with what it needs to. Like, it's grazing, there's nothing flashy, fancy, it's just a modified walk animation. It looks as expected, it works as intended, and there's not a whole lot to say on it. I think the only thing I would say, if anything, would be how dramatically the head moves as it's walking around, because it does this really dramatic head downward movement at some point. And to me, I would think it would be moving its head up a little bit more dramatically than down. But I guess it depends on if it's eating a bush versus grass. Like with grass, you'd think it would be moving its head down and pulling up to get the grass off of the ground. Whereas with a bush, it might lower its head down in order to snap it off or something. I don't know. It's nothing major or anything, that's just what popped out to me as far as the grazing thing goes. Like, maybe a little bit more upward movement versus downward movement, because to me, snapping your head down to eat grass doesn't quite make sense unless, I mean, I guess you could argue if it's tall grass, he might move it down to snap it, but I don't know. Anyway, moving on, doesn't matter. Head injury. This one's incredibly simple. These ones usually take him only a little bit to do, and this was the final one in this stream. So, as it says, head injury, he'll move his head around, and I think this is the one. Yet earlier I was mentioning the mouth hanging open, and I think this one is mostly the one I was thinking of, because with this one, generally, they're gonna have their head open. Friggin' mouth open. I mean, maybe eventually they'll have the head open, I doubt it, but the mouth open and shake the head around. I think I remember with some of the prior injury ones, the mouth might have been open a little bit. I'm trying to think. Like, Serrato's was a bit dramatic in how he limped and whatnot. And then Pingu, I don't think it had its mouth open. I think it was mostly to do with where its hands were positioned, because Pingu. But anyway, that's off topic. It's a head injury. He shakes his head around a little bit and he looks pain. And that's it. It looks as it should, I suppose. I don't really have anything to say on that one. It's just injured head movement, all that stuff. So overall thoughts on the stream. I think this one was a nice one. It's especially nice if you like Dibble. For me, I am okay with Dibble. As far as the dinosaur roster goes, I suppose Dibble's a little bit higher up there for me. He's cute, I enjoy him. And it's neat to see a quadruped animated, because a lot of them are bipedal, and there's a little bit more in some ways that goes into these ones versus the other ones. But yeah, this one was interesting. Instead of just the walking, it was a lot of different things. Like the grazing, the head movement, yeah, those are just modified walking. Well, the head movement isn't even that. It's just, I think it's just tacked on to anything that's going on at the time. So that's why you only ever see the head move when he's animating that one. And then the injury one was very slight changes to the regular walk. I mean, he's hunched more and everything, but compared to the regular walk, there's not a whole lot different when I looked at it. But then there's the swimming one, which I keep saying, it's just so much going on compared to the others. Like, you get to see it step by step, and it's fascinating. I like those ones. One of my least favorite to see in game becomes one of the surprise favorites to watch created. Who would have thought? But anyway, yeah, I think this was a good stream. There were like 4 different animations covered, something like that. I mean, there's more sub-animations within those 4. Like, with the injured one, he did 2 different ones, if I recall. At least 2 different ones. I don't know. I'm not looking back. Anyway, yeah. So there was a lot more going on, especially compared to with the last one where it was just the one, and it was just walking. So, yeah, overall, nice stream. Good fun to watch. And on the topic of streams, I have to go somewhere Thursday. So, we'll see how that one turns out. If it's a very simple one, I might just skip it. We'll see. Like, if it's another just walking one, I might highlight it, maybe. But I don't know how much energy I'm gonna have by the time I get back, and I don't want this digging even further into my day than it already does. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. Hopefully he doesn't stream that day, but he probably will, so not holding my breath. Today is also the dev blog day. As I'm recording this, when you guys see it, it's gonna be afterwards, so this video will be out after, but for me right now it's devlog day. It's usually a bit later in the day when that one gets posted, and so I'll be waiting a while. You guys already know the contents by then, but for me, I'm kind of curious to see what's in it this time around. I remember Kissin, when someone asked something, she had responded, devlog's right around the corner. I think it was regarding more of the Unreal Engine 5 stuff. I don't quite remember. But we haven't been getting quite as much as of late from the Discord, so I hope there's a good amount of stuff in the devlog. We'll see. Some of them can be pretty barren in comparison to others, so it'll be interesting to see what goes on and who all has their posts in it, since sometimes some of them post and others don't, and yeah, all that fun stuff. I think most of what I'm looking forward to today, though, is just going and playing something, because I am tired, sons. But anyway, I think it's time to wrap it. I think we've done enough here. We're good. Hopefully, maybe. Honestly, at this point, I'm just gonna call it anyway. I hope you guys have a nice week. Everything's going well for you guys. Have a great day, night, whatever time you guys end up seeing this. And goodbye!
Thank you.